Hey, Westfield family. We all know that life is really just a matter of perspective. Like right now, it's beautiful and sunny out, but what you don't see is that I'm actually really bundled up because it's still not all that warm yet. It looks really warm and it looks incredible to be out in, but I'm inside our back porch bundled up because the wind is really cold. So, what do you see out the window? What do you see what's going on in this life? I think it's a good question as we come on a Friday right before Holy Week. We quickly, in church circles, turn to the story of Good Friday and the moment when Jesus is hanging on the cross for us. So I want to start off by asking, what do you see? What do you see when you look at the cross? Some people saw a criminal. Some people saw a liar. Some people, even today, really just see a fable or a legend. Mary saw her son hanging on the cross. But what do you see? In our devotion, and it's on our website, you can follow along. Pastor Chris posts it every week. He talked about Mary Magdalene out of John 19:25, which reads, "But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene." What do you think Mary Magdalene saw as she was staring at the cross? As Pastor Chris pointed out, she probably saw her own fate, that she should be the one on the cross, not this Jesus that she's come to love so near and dear. Sunday is Palm Sunday. And our church is going to try to find a creative way to celebrate it, and we're going to be able to, there'll be a drive-through, you can come pick up a palm and wave it out your car window and things. But so we invite you 11 to 11:30 to swing by the church parking lot. But what do you see in the story of Palm Sunday? Do you see a military hero coming to wage political war against the Romans like Judas Iscariot really wanted? Do you see a scene of backstabbers throwing their coats on the road on Sunday and then crying out for Jesus' arrest on Thursday and Friday? Do you see a scene of praise and worship that they're truly praising this God and that the Messiah has come? Or do you see a Savior on a rescue mission for your soul that will lead him to the cross for you? This weekend, and especially next week, don't look for what you don't see. Okay, you're not going to see a bunch of busy church parking lots all week long like we're used to. Most of us aren't going to be seeing our normal Easter routines like we have in years past. So I want to challenge you to look harder. You might just see the beginnings of resurrection of God's people in the world. Do you know churches are reaching people today we've never been able to reach? Just because we've suddenly gone online, and so many of our churches have been going online, we've been reaching people that we never even realized we had the chance to reach. I was hearing a story this week of a small country church. It's like 20, 80-year-olds in worship, and they had, of course, have had to go online, and they're reaching over 100 people a day. This is a church that reaches 20 people a week, and they're reaching over 100 people a day. And by the way, that's kind of normal of what we're hearing in church circles right now. See, if we look at what's going on, we see a lot of things that we don't normally get to see. Again, we see empty church parking lots on Sunday when we're used to them being filled. But what we're missing is that God has been moving this whole season. And so I want to invite you as we enter Holy Week to look harder. One of my favorite Easter stories, and as a pastor, I have to have a guilty confession here. It's, okay, Jesus and the resurrection and the empty tomb, that's the best. This might be number 2. A couple of years ago on Palm Sunday, a church in Cairo, Egypt was bombed. Building in rubble, people died. And they didn't close their doors. They didn't have to reevaluate and call the elders together to think about the future of their church. You know what they did? They went to worship on Sunday morning. And it was so packed, people were lining the streets trying to get into the building, so much so cars could not drive on the road until the service was over. There were that many people that wanted to see resurrection. There were that many people that wanted to glorify God for new life in the midst of darkness and destruction. You see, if we look At the surface level, we would have seen a church in rubble. We would have seen a church in trouble and in mourning. But if we looked harder, we would see the resurrection power being enacted in that sanctuary that day. And what a great testimony to their town and their community that God is bigger than any evil or any destruction we can go through. So as we come to the cross, as we come to Palm Sunday, as we come to Easter in the empty tomb, I want to invite you to look harder. I want you to look for resurrection and the power that God has in his church. Because if you look for it and you look past not being able to have our normal Easter routines, if you look harder, you just might see real resurrection in time. We're praying for you guys. We miss you. Have a great weekend.